Hello, how's it going? In today's video, I'm covering First Contact, The Guardian's Apprentice, and Specters and Shadows from Chronicle Volume 2. So let's go! Reports began to reach Stormwind of strange creatures hanging about playing silly buggers in the Black Morass. Rumours filled the streets. People weren't sure what the bloody hell was going on, and they speculated that it was trolls, or ghosts, or some new race from across the Great Sea that had come to make war on humans. So King Llane called on Commander Lothar to go and have a look-see and find out. He led a small group of knights to scout out the Black Morass, and it wasn't long before they ran across the Horde. For the first time, orcs clashed with Stormwind knights, and it was pretty violent. Lothar and his crew managed to win a few small victories, but it seemed like every time they killed an orc, two more would take its place. It wasn't long before they found themselves outnumbered, and Lothar was forced to order his men to cheese it. How are they replenishing their troops so fast? Thing is, they hadn't ventured far enough in to discover the Dark Portal. The orcs had already taken control of the region, so it was too heavily guarded to really investigate. Lothar sent word back to the king that the invaders were somehow bringing in reinforcements, but he had no bloody idea how. Stormwind needs to prepare for a full-scale war. Meanwhile, the orcs let War Chief Blackhand know that the humans were now fully aware of their presence, and that it was time. The first war was about to begin. Also meanwhile, Medivh was actually a little bit surprised that absolutely no one knew about his recent clash with Aegwynn. Although no witnesses had survived with their memories intact, Medivh had felt sure the fact that hundreds of nobles were missing would draw attention, but everybody had just assumed it was something to do with the orcs. The Horde's invasion had also completely preoccupied the Council of Tirisfal and the Kirin Tor. In fact, the council were now so desperate to have Medivh as an ally, they decided to send him another apprentice, a young trainee mage named Khadgar. He had shown great promise, but he wasn't exactly a fan of studying under Medivh. Dude was angry and isolated. Unfortunately, he wasn't really given a choice. The Kirin Tor commanded it, so Khadgar had to bloody do it. As soon as he arrived at Karazhan, his fears were confirmed. The tower was spooky and cursed. Medivh would have these weird mood swings. The young apprentice would often see ghosts and haunting visions of the past, present and future. Also, his janitor was weird. Guy was straight up mental. However, he was determined he wasn't going to fail like all the other apprentices. Time and time again he kept his wits about him and passed Medivh's tests, and as a result, Medivh decided not to reject him. It was a risk keeping him around, but he was pretty lonely, and this Khadgar guy seemed smart and hungry to learn. Medivh revealed to Khadgar something which the Kirin Tor had not. He was the Guardian. The Council of Tirisfal was suspicious of him, which was the real reason why they were sending apprentices, to spy, unwittingly. At first Khadgar was like, "You what, mate?" But it did kind of make sense. What's more, it didn't put him off. It actually kind of intrigued him. This was an opportunity to study under the Guardian, the most powerful mage in the world. One night, Khadgar received a weird vision. In it, he was an old white-haired man, leading troops into battle against green-skinned enemies. These creatures in the vision matched the description of the orcs he'd heard about, but like most people, he didn't yet know what was true and what was rumour about the invaders. He told Medivh what he'd seen, and Medivh was like, "You been taking drugs? I don't know what you're talking about. What's a bloody orc anyway? Sounds dumb." As he feigned ignorance, he told Khadgar he'd been cooped up in this tower, so he hadn't heard of the violence in the south, and he definitely didn't know what an orc was, because it was time to find out. So they rode griffins over the Black Morass to scout the region. Or Medivh rode a griffin. Khadgar had a try, bless him. He wasn't very good at it, and almost fell to his death about 17 times. They eventually saw the Horde forces, and Khadgar was stunned. Their army was immense. Unfortunately, an orc warlock spotted the two little spy buggers and launched some foul powers on their butts. Medivh urged Khadgar to destroy the warlock. Khadgar struggled and did get a little bit of guardian help, but eventually he succeeded. The two of them also crossed paths with Lothar, who was leading his soldiers on a scouting mission. The knight was aware that Medivh had been rattled when he'd unleashed his power on the Gurubashi trolls years ago, but he urged his friend to rejoin the fray. Medivh played on Lothar's assumptions and acted as if he was indeed a little bit scared and reluctant to use his powers. In truth, he was just biding his time, allowing the Horde to gain strength, but he wasn't going to say that out loud. Lothar had a little private chat with Khadgar as well. Concerned for his friend, he told the young apprentice of Medivh's troubled past. Guy exploded his dad and fell into a coma for 10 years. So do me a favour, don't just be his apprentice, look after him. Khadgar attempted this, but things got a little weird after that night. Medivh's behaviour became a lot more erratic. He'd disappear for days, and when he returned he'd be exhausted. But that wasn't the most troubling thing. A strange guest arrived at the tower one day. Garona. Khadgar immediately viewed her as an enemy, but Medivh greeted her warmly and called her sugar tits. He insisted that Khadgar treat her with respect. Over the following days, Khadgar and Garona would exchange little sarcastic comments with one another, plus she kept calling him sugar tits, which was weird. But they soon developed a friendship. Maybe Medivh was right. Maybe this half-orc truly was on their side. But here's the problem. The night they went to the Black Morass, Medivh had claimed he had no knowledge of orcs, yet it was clear he and Garona had become friends long before Khadgar had started his apprenticeship. Which means Medivh is a barefaced liar. And we're leaving it there! In the next Volume 2 video, the Frostwolves are going to get banished and the Horde are going to expand out of the Black Morass. As always, thanks very much to those of you who support the channel as patrons. Links in the description if anyone's interested in supporting the channel in that way. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, all of that bollocks. And all that's left to say is, thanks for watching, and see ya!